Do you have a highlight?
By the time you get everything ready, we should be going.
And if you don't, it's fine. It's over here? Okay, I got it. I'm gonna go see the highlight.
Are you ready? You got the recorder on? We're good. I'd like to welcome everybody to the August 7th, 2018 meeting. It's official time 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. At this time, I need approval of the agenda.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Tonight it's our pleasure to have Bo Washburn, the pastor of First Baptist Church, will be doing our invocation and pledge. Bo?
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we want to lift up our county commissioners and other community leaders that are represented here tonight in this room. Father, we pray that you'd give them wisdom in every decision, that you'd grant them discernment, that you'd allow them to think clearly, to be strong and effective leaders for our community. Lord, provide them with courage and strength as they make every decision. Help them to always lead our community with honesty and integrity. And Lord, we pray that you would direct their steps according to your word, so their decisions would have the greatest impact on our community. Be their defender and their protector. And Father, we pray for their families as well, that you would strengthen them, that you would encourage them, and you would protect them while they're away. Father, we just thank you so much for being blessed to live in this wonderful community. Father, we see around our country and around our world so many places that are shifting from the moral center that you've established, and we're thankful that here in Jones County things move a little bit slower. And Father, we pray that it would remain that way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you both. We move on tonight. Was Zach Holloway ever able to make it tonight? I don't see him. We'll have to reschedule him for another meeting. All right, we've got our consent agenda and approval for the minutes. We have the third Tuesday, July 17th, 2018. We've also got an executive session of July 17th, 2018. Call meeting July 30th, 2018. Executive session is July 30th, 2018. Everybody had an opportunity to look at this, and if so, we need a motion.
So moved, Chairman.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. We have visitors tonight. Miss Bub, did you want to speak, or you want to let Miss Martha?
I'm going to let the lady go ahead.
Miss Martha, you get? Right, okay. We have three visitors tonight. Miss Martha Branson with Joy Cliff Circle Zoning Concern.
Okay. Gentlemen and Ms. Tyson, we, the concerned citizens of Joy Cliff Circle area, Listening Hill subdivision, and Crystal Forest subdivision, come before you for a third time regarding the structures under construction at 176 Joy Cliff Circle by Mark Timothy James. Some came the first time in June as a forerunner to some difficulties beginning to appear at the address already mentioned. The second time was July the 3rd, 2018, whereby some spoke up and a petition containing some 66 signatures was presented to the full Jones County Commission Board. And we were assured that this would be taken care of, and it was passed to the Jones County Planning and Zoning. Since that time, a Planning and Zoning Appeals Board meeting was set for tomorrow, August the 8th, 2018, at 4:00 p.m. I have been very interested in how many applications for permits have been obtained Initially, there was one in 2017 and subsequently 2018 for a single-family dwelling of certain square footage, etc. Ongoing, the house square footage has increased and an appurtenant structure of unknown dimensions was built, and the license for this was obtained only on July the 3rd, 2018, after the fact of it being built. In addition, James has constructed an outhouse-looking structure which he claims to be a school bus shelter for children and a very large cross which seems to be within the setback lines, and it is inappropriate for anyone's front yard in my personal view. Maybe nobody else's, but in my personal view, as I told you at the last meeting, to me a cross is certainly solemn, holy, and it should not be there. And what brings me here tonight is that this meeting, this P&Z meeting, is tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and I only learned last week that the cross is not on the agenda. And I have some packets that I'm going to give y'all in a minute, but anyway, James has not obtained any licenses for either of these last two structures, and that was what was to be brought up at the P&Z Appeals Board meeting. However, it is my understanding that only the bus stop is to come up, and I was given the reason for the cross not being on the P&Z Appeals Board was because it was first of all, a decorative thing, like people putting flamingos in their front yard. And then later I was told that it was because it is a religious symbol and you can't touch it. But I beg to differ in this packet that I prepared for each of you. I have attached a state law that was passed in 2011 about memorials by the roadside, state highways, of course, being not anymore. And I would think that our county would do something similar. See, this sets a precedent. This sets a precedent. And I don't know. But anyhow, it just upsets me that that's not on the agenda tomorrow. And I was hoping that it would be. And I'm hoping that at this particular juncture that we can either table it and put it off until an additional P&Z Appeals Board meeting can be set up. In other words, if we're not going to do the whole enchilada, it's not going to help us just for one little thing. Additionally, I told somebody, and I understand some measurement has been taken, that it looks to me, maybe my eyes aren't as good as what I think they are, but it looks like it's in the setback line. And then also it's of such a large size. It's right in the curve of Joycliff Circle where there's a telephone pole. And we have a lot of deer in the area. And I'm thinking that a deer might come on the other side and dart out in front of a driver, which is a dangerous precedent to set. Let me see where I was. But the reason I'm here this evening is because I don't know, what we can do about this upcoming meeting, not including what I wanted to do. But in the meantime, Mr. James has continued to fix, even after the P&Z yellow sign was placed and the ads run, he has continued to fix the outhouse, to work on it, and it's, as far as I can tell, almost complete. In other words, he's done exactly what he wanted, and I I would think that somebody would have told him to hold off on that until after this P&Z meeting. But anyway, there's so much I want to cover, but in the essence of time, I want to make sure I've mentioned everything that I wanted to do. But to me, he's been in total disregard of the rules, regulations, and laws which govern our county, which concerns me greatly. And I find that Mr. James has played on people's sympathies, and he has great difficulty with the truth, and he is not, in my view, a man of integrity. I have prepared these packets, as I've mentioned, to hand out to you of what I, through my research, have done. And on one of the pages are the number of inspections that have been done. And there's only been one inspection, according to this, in 2018. And then, in addition, I've got a copy from a code book about exempt signs, and it says any official flag, emblem, or insignia of the United States, the state of Georgia, other country or state or religious group. And I want to know what is the definition of a religious group. That's what this code says, and I want y'all to have it. In addition, I've given y'all a copy of when the law was passed about the roadside memorials are to be no longer. Roadside memorials must go. And so with that, I'll conclude. I'll give these out and then I'll conclude. And I cannot help but ask you and implore you, the gentlemen of our commission, to help us with this total mess that we find ourselves in. And I can't help but ask my question about how have we gotten into this mess? How have we gotten into this mess?
Well, you've got an opportunity tomorrow to represent your concerns tomorrow, and then it will come before this board again at a later date. You don't? Oh, I'm sorry, I was misinformed. I thought we heard the variant. We don't have to hear the variant? Okay, so tomorrow's your opportunity to. I'm sure you'll have a very nice following there tomorrow to support the neighborhood on y'all's behalf. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, are there any questions that y'all have of me?
No, ma'am. I appreciate your hard work and all this. Attorney Childs has it also, so he can review it. And I urge everybody to show up for your hearing tomorrow, so y'all can be heard.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I understand Ms. Lord is going to speak next.
I talked with Mr. Wagner, and I think you covered everything that I would have brought up.
Sure.
Okay. And Bob?
Most of y'all know me, I'm Will Lister.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, thank you, Martha, for all the work you've put into it. And to let you gentlemen be enlightened a little, this is a terrible thing that's going on out in our community. And it needs to come to a head, one way or the other. And we hope the other. And Lord only knows, we're not trying to hurt people's feelings. We can't get the truth. We were told right here in this meeting that the first meeting that I came to and spoke by Mr. Petrowski, that we were to turn in petitions from the individuals. Mm-hmm. One petition that was not turned in was on the cross. And he caught that and told me right here in front of this hall, and got the gentleman, and I'm not sure whether he's here tonight or not, but got the gentleman and took him in the office to fill out that petition correctly. And the petition that's up there is on looks like a real estate sign. It's printed, and I'm blind in one eye, so I can't see good. And I could not read it from the road. And Mark has gone and put no trespassing signs everywhere. So we can't get out of our car to go over there and read the sign of what the petition is about. And thanks to Martha, she read it for me. And nowhere on there, unless it's been changed, was anything mentioned about the cross. Now Mark stopped me in the courthouse and he asked me, he says, what do you think about a cross? A cross. I said, well, I don't have a problem with a cross. It's that cross is the one I have a problem with. And he's out politicking, if you want to use the term, to everyone about this, to try to let people know in the community there's nothing wrong with it. I've heard, I'm not going to bore you with that. I appreciate what y'all are doing. I appreciate y'all have a listening ear. We've been down here several times, and the only thing we ask you to do is to be with us tomorrow, and let's get something going on this thing. These people, I'm old, but they are older than I am. And this is really bothering their hearts, and we got to get something done. And I appreciate your time and appreciate your prayers for us in this matter.
We appreciate y'all. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Ms. Lord says she's fine. I talked with her. And again, we appreciate y'all. Attorney Child, would you like to say anything?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say a couple of things. I haven't talked to the board members about this, so this is the first time you're hearing it too, because I just haven't been directly involved in it. Most of these issues involving the House are things that I don't deal with. I do know that Mr. Petrowski has been out there many times. I think he spent more time working on this project than any house that I know of. There's some things that apparently the applicant is in compliance with, some others he may not be, some others still to be decided. But I know that it's being looked into very, very diligently. Now, as far as the cross is concerned, that's the only thing I have been dealing with, and I've talked to Tim about that in some detail. And in my opinion about the cross is that it does not comply. It's not something that would be included in the exempt signs. So I think the cross is not in compliance as far as the cross is concerned. Now, and I'll tell you why. And Martha mentioned this code section. It's 97.4 and little 5 in parentheses. And it says this, I'll read it just in case you haven't read it lately, I haven't read it at all. Any official flag, emblem, or insignia of the United States, the state of Georgia, other country or state, religious group, and civic organization or nonprofit service club. That's what's exempt. Now, the key word there is official. If it's an official flag of the United States, an official or emblem or insignia of the United States or the state of Georgia or other countries or states or religious group or civic organization or nonprofit service club. Now, it's got to be the official flag, emblem, or insignia to comply with this. We all know what the official, and this is what's set out in this particular ordinance. We all know what the official flag of the United States is. Congress has set that. We all know what the official state of Georgia flag is. The legislature has established that. We all know what the official flags of other states are and countries. We all know the civic organizations and nonprofit service clubs have their official flags where they're a governing body. Just pick a club, Lions Club, Rotary Club, Satoma, all these clubs have their flag or their official insignia. Now, I don't think the cross, as far as I know, is the official flag, emblem, or insignia of a religious group. Now, it is probably the most well-known symbol of Christianity and Christendom. It's a symbol that means a lot to a lot of people. It has not been declared by any governing body as the official flag, emblem, or insignia of any religion. So I don't think the flag complies. I've told Tim that as recently as today, and the cross. And what I want you all, I want everybody to know this. I know you're frustrated when things aren't going the way we want. We all get frustrated, including me, when you don't think results are being obtained and people aren't doing what they need to be doing. But I will assure you that this thing is being looked at. if Mr. James complies with some or parts of this project out there, he's gonna be permitted. I don't know where the man lives right now, I don't know what county he lives in, but he's I've heard Bibb, I've heard Jones, but if he moves into that house, he's gonna be living in Jones County. And he's gonna be treated just like anybody who's applying for a CO trying to get a project built. And I know Tim Petrowski well enough, and I've worked with him long enough to tell you, that's all he looks at. He doesn't care who's applying. He doesn't care what they do for a living. He doesn't care who they know in government. He's going to give them a certificate if they deserve it. And if they don't, he won't. And I know him that well. So the cross is the only thing I've been directly involved in. I know there's some issues for tomorrow. I'm not sure which ones. Tim can tell us about what's coming up tomorrow. But as far as the cross is concerned, that, in my opinion, is not in compliance because it's not an official. It's a symbol, a well-loved, known, respected symbol, but it's not. It has not been declared the official flag, emblem, or insignia, as far as I know. Now, another thing I think we do need to do after having looked at this whole thing in a lot of detail, a lot of these provisions here, it's mine and Tim's thought that the board might want to declare. Tim, you want to come up for just a minute? This is more your bailiwick than mine, to give us a chance to really look at not just this issue, but a lot of issues in here. If you want to tell the board about that, Tim?
Yes, sir. With the conditions going on with our sign ordinance and the questions that this has raised, feel that it's advisable for you all to adopt an 180-day moratorium to give us some time to make some corrections to the zoning ordinance, the sign ordinance portion. Go ahead and get them adopted and get these holes plugged in the ordinance so that they couldn't be exploited. And 180 days is way more than we need. We could probably take care of it within 60 to 90 days, but just have a little bit of extra time there to take care of that. Specifically, the moratorium would be to section 97.4 bracket 5 of the comprehensive land development resolution. We'd want to not allow any permits, any structures to be built under that exemption, or any variances or rezonings, conditional uses to be applied associated with that exemption at this time. Recommend the board declare one of those.
All right, we do that tonight?
Yes, sir. That gets on the agenda. This matter's on here, and that's close enough to permit a motion.
Any questions or conversation? Mr. Martin?
As the licensed real estate broker in the group, I'm always cautious about laws and ordinances and regulations that are in response to an individual or situation. And I don't want to do that. It's uncomfortable. It's kind of like the scenario with Mike Williams that was out on, I think, Roberts Road, where spot zoning occurred right here in this group. And it's just an uncomfortable feeling. I don't have a problem with us making a decision. And I think that's what we should do. Just make a decision. That's what we're elected to do. We're empowered to do that. I don't think we should potentially impact the entire county for the next 180 days. And I don't know who that is, what small business, what individual, what organization, what group. I'm uncomfortable doing that in response to an individual. I'd rather us deal with the variance tomorrow and say yes or no, and keep it simple. So those are my concerns there. The reality of if this document applies to us, then we uphold it. One of the last portions, or the last sentence of page 3 says, the state announcement only affects state and federal highways. Then it says cities and counties regulate their own roadways. So, again, that falls back to us. Let us do that on an individual basis with this particular situation. So that's my concern. I don't want to negatively impact somebody or some entity that we don't know about for the next 180 days.
This moratorium wouldn't affect this case it's currently up because it's already under. Isn't that correct?
The cross is not on the agenda for the meeting. We didn't have final disposition of whether it was in compliance or not, so we did not have him request a variance. So right now the cross is not on the table before the Board of Appeals. All they will be hearing tomorrow is the accessory building.
Any other comments or?
But based on our ruling, there is the opinion is there is no variance for the cross, so it's not able to be allowed, I guess, or a variance for it. Is that?
They could apply for a variance to allow the cross to remain there, yes, sir.
And Tim, I will say this, because I didn't know that till I just heard it. I think you should give him a chance to add that. I mean, if he was advised not to ask for one, you know, I think he should be told now, if about this opinion that I've given, that if he wants to ask for one, he should be allowed to.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to in any way for him to think we misled him some way, and they didn't ask for something that he really didn't know he should ask for.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree. I think we make a decision on that, even if it's going to be on the agenda. We make a decision on this, on the cross now, and by all means, we need to update our ordinances, our sign ordinance. But kind of same way as Commissioner Martin about the moratorium, because we don't know who's going to apply for something, and if we just say it's an automatic no for 180 days, it may be a legitimate sign request that comes in from a business owner that is looking to, you know, put business here, and we're automatically saying no for 180 days. I mean, it could potentially lose us a taxpayer.
And I know we've got 2 businesses that are trying to establish yet this year.
So, and I think every situation like this is going to come for us for a vote. So we deal with this one, we work on the sign ordinances, and then we deal with them as they come along.
I'm correct. I mean, if we got a new business come in with a moratorium, they couldn't put a sign during the moratorium.
This moratorium is targeted specifically at the exemption that allows the official
Flags.
insignia. This is strictly targeted at that sentence.
Okay, so it wouldn't affect our commercial signage, anything like that we currently.
No, sir. The only thing that would affect was if they wanted to erect an American flag as part of the specific location. That would not be permitted during the.
And Tim, they could still do it, but it had to be compliant with the size, right? I mean, they could still erect one, but it wouldn't have to just comply with the.
It would have to comply with the sign ordinance and not qualify under the exemption, because that exemption would be under the.
So it wouldn't prevent them from having a flag if they wanted one. If it complied with the size.
Yeah, the way our sign ordinance worked, they can only have one sign, so they could choose to put up a flag, or they could choose to put up their advertising sign.
Right.
They wouldn't be able to do both while this moratorium was in effect.
Yeah, I'd be skeptical about saying you can put up your business sign and no flag. I don't ever want to tell anybody that. I sure wouldn't want you telling me that.
Yeah. Labor Day's coming. I don't know that I'm opposed or be against somebody putting a flag out. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, because I mean, pretty much on a case-by-case basis would come before us anyway, so we could decide whether it was acceptable or not anyway, as Tim continues to work on updating the ordinance. Is that correct? Yes or no? No. That's a no. Okay.
If it qualifies as an exemption, then the permit's not required. You can just erect a qualifying exempted structure.
Okay.
In this specific case, the determination has been made that that cross is not exempt.
Right.
One of the things I think that was going to be considered and thought about is whether somebody thinks they've got a sign that should be exempt, rather than just going and putting it up and maybe get it approved first. Tim, I don't know if that's something we want to consider, but that's part of what I think would be talked about.
A lot of the sign ordinances that I've been looking at don't have exempt signs. They specify more specifically what you can do. Authorizing, for example, an American flag on individual lots, you're not allowed more than X number and no larger than, and then that flag is authorized within that specific criteria.
Could we adjust the moratorium to say not no signs, but everyone until we have them updated needs to come through the board, so that we get it. It looks like we're almost exempting ourselves from being able to decide whether something's in our ordinance or not before our ordinance is written, because currently you can do it or cater to the exemption. Am I wrong? Or?
The Zoning Procedure Act requires us to take specific actions when we're making zoning decisions. This So we have to provide ample public notice, and so that kind of thing would not really be falling within those guidelines. The only exception we have is with the zoning moratorium for this specific item. When we do a moratorium for a specific purpose, for a specific duration, then we can address a zoning problem because it's come to our attention without having to go through the Zoning Procedures Act and get that moratorium in place. And that gives us the time we need to make the changes.
Oh,
My concern is that as we sit here tonight, if somebody wants to bring a business into Jones County and says, I've got a choice of whether I put up my business sign in front of my business or an American flag, I can't do both. That's a problem. And if that's how if that's the decision we got to make tonight, you know, that's a hard one for me to say, you know, put a moratorium on it.
but this can be corrected without moratorium and brought to the board at a later date, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can consensus handle it that way? Have this corrected and brought to the board at a later date to decide?
Absolutely.
Consensus? All right.
If it wouldn't be inappropriate, then perhaps a motion would be in order to begin the text amendment process for Section 97 and allow me to get that ball rolling.
That'd be good.
Make a motion for the text amendment necessary for Section 97.4.
Bracket 5.
Bracket 5. I was going to say paragraph 5.
We have a second? We have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion, second. Any more discussion?
Chairman, I would also like to add this. Mr. James did bring up another point. Bus stops, you know, he brought that up. He said there really wasn't an ordinance and ours was kind of loose. I don't want to be surprised by anybody else. I would love us to address that. And I know there was an issue of outbuildings too. And I know in that particular neighborhood, a particular neighbor built a very large structure. If we have the opportunity, I'd like to do all of that together. Sign if it's going to be bus stops or outbuildings, and then of course the additional structures that go on properties.
So we're going to amend your motion.
That would be my friendly amendment.
Like Tim wanted to comment on that. He wanted to comment.
Numbers on that
I mean,
one.
we might as well do it. Let's just get it done.
So it'd be to also begin the text amendment process for Section 93 to allow some accessory buildings in the front yard.
Or not, to be specific about that. I mean, because do we allow that? Because that is the question.
We do not allow it.
All right.
I don't, there's no.
But there are bus stops in other parts of the county.
My office is complaint driven.
Okay.
And if I get a complaint about a bus stop in front of someone's house, then I cite them a violation of the zoning regulations. I'm not charged with riding around looking for accessory buildings in the front yard.
So they are not allowed as with outbuildings on the side of the road.
That's correct. Any accessory building is required to be to the rear of the structure, except in our agricultural district.
So it's already in place then.
Yeah, but the problem is some people can have them and some people can't because of neighbors. So I'd rather, if we're going to make a ruling on it, because I don't think it should be spot driven or just driven by a community. If one community can have a bus stop, I think all communities can have a bus stop. Or no communities can have a bus stop.
None of them can have them now, right?
That's correct. Well, in the agricultural district, you could, but in the residential districts, no.
All right, if I don't want to deal with that, that's fine. I just didn't want it to, I don't want us to be open for any litigation because someone else can have it and somebody else can't have it. It's about fairness.
It's not that they can't have it. They've got it illegally.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I know I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's already a no in our ordinance, but so it don't need to be addressed.
Okay. I'm good then.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So the original motion still stands with the second. Any more discussion? None. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
So, ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Trowski. New business?
P&C Eagles board meeting still take place tomorrow?
Yes.
4 o'clock?
Yes.
Are we going to allow him to put that on the agenda.
Tim, will you let him know in the morning that if he wants to request a variance for the cross, he can, and it'll be considered tomorrow?
It is too late for it to be considered tomorrow. We'll have to notify, mail out notices, do a new sign, and notify that there'd be a discussion about the cross. Right now, we have not notified the public that it would be
Okay,
discussed.
they can be at another meeting.
Yes.
Right, okay.
But as of now, it's not permitted unless he obtains a variance.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business. We have approval for the purchase of library furniture under the state contract. I know you wanted to let Frank Duke do this, but I think you're going to handle it, Mr. Rudd.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we have Ms. Appling, the chair of our library board. Frank Duke, Liesl is here, and Danita from the Middle Georgia Regional Library System. And at this time, if it's okay, I'd like to invite them to come up. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate them being here for this. As you all know, we're working on the library renovation project right now, and it's going along very well. We had a meeting last week with the architect and the contractor, and something that Liesl and several others have been working on is the furnishings piece of this. And the bid that we received earlier was just for the hard construction. So it didn't include any of the furniture or furnishings and that FF&E stuff for the building. So the architect and Liesl and others have been working on a FF&E package, and they've got a certain theme that they're trying to go with for the building. There is a state contract that exists for furniture and that type of thing, and they've been able to identify things in that state contract that we would like to have in the library. And so tonight we come before you. There's an exception in our purchasing ordinance that allows us to purchase through the state contract without going through a typical bid process. This is I think in your package there you've got pictures of the various things that we want to have in the library. For a lot of those things, you can imagine it'd be difficult to describe those things in such a way that you could get multiple bids on, a particular table that's shaped like a leaf, or things along those lines. And so I think this is something that a purchase where it would really make a lot of sense to go the state contract route.
The issue comes where we are using splash funds and state funds to purchase the furniture. The state funds only allow us a certain portion for furniture. And so the splash funds that you all have presented us with, we want to do it all in one order. And so that's why we need to be able to use the state contract.
So I think, Ms. Appling, we can use $160,000 of the state library's
I think
money.
It's 10%.
10%. Okay, so it'd be about $130,000 of the state money. The remaining $200,000 would come from our SPLOST money. And as you'll recall, we've got about $200,000 from the old SPLOST, about $275,000, I believe it is, from the 2015 SPLOST available there. So
You got some impact money.
and some impact fee money. That's correct. And so this purchase would be made. We'll spend the 2009 SPLOST money first. But just wanted to come before the board to request permission to make these purchases under the state contract. So it's about $335,000 worth, and it might vary up or down just a tad from that, I think, based on the final selections here. But with that, I'll open it up for any additional comments from y'all or questions from the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
We thank you,
Thank
and we thank you for your support.
Thank you for your hard work.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question?
Yes.
What was the percentage for the state fund?
Beg your pardon?
You said there was a percentage.
10% of the grant.
And it was a
Grant.
Yes.
It was a $1.3 million
yeah.
award from the
Because I knew
state.
10% of 33,000.
Just a couple of
Some
zeros.
fuzzy math, all right.
Yeah, a few zeros.
Fuzzy
Thank you
math.
very much.
You asked that, Martin, because I was like, yeah.
As we move on tonight, number 2 on our new business is approval for the following to enforce using of originating, always have a problem with that. Originating agency identifier to obtain criminal fingerprint history on beer and wine applications.
That was a mouthful.
I don't know why I can't say originating, but
We are now required to get fingerprints on our beer and wine applicants. And with that said, we have to use a originating agency identifier to do that, which has already been applied for and received. The Sheriff's Department has agreed to order the fingerprints for us. And the biggest requirement is the security. You cannot look at those fingerprints without taking security training. Now, Jason and I have taken the security training as well as, well, I don't know that Frank has, but he plans to take the security.
Have not yet. Yeah.
Because even to discuss the specifics of what's on those fingerprint records require the security training. So it has required, there's 5 different policies. There's a disciplinary policy, media policy, incident response policy, disaster policy. They're all in your manual. And there's a management control agreement, which basically just spells out that we will use the Sheriff's Department. They'll use our originating agency number. And the other part of it is there is a fee for these fingerprints, but the applicant will pay it. Now, I actually developed a standard operating procedure that goes through all the different parts, the applicant's part, because these applications are taken in the accounting office. In the past, they received criminal records. They can no longer receive those. The board can actually take this training and look at those criminal records. We didn't present it that way, but that's still an option. The problem with that is we're trying to stay away from anything done electronically. These records have to stay under lock and key for as long as we keep them. We are actually, they say not subject to be audited every 3 years, but we will be audited every 3 years. Let's see. Do you have any questions?
any questions, Ms. Marty?
As long as we get a pass, no pass, or in my opinion, part of the operation procedures, if they don't pass the background check, they shouldn't even come before us. So as far as I'm concerned, it hopefully resolves the step so we don't have to put them on the agenda to fail them if they've already failed. So as long as you handle that in the background, I'm fine.
Now, I don't know, Frank, in your opinion, can we not bring it before the board, even if the way we had talked about doing this was we bring it before the board, but the only thing we say is they did not pass the background check.
Commissioner
We have
Martin's-
to deny it.
Well, I think so, and I think what Commissioner Martin's saying would be a good way to do it. It would be more expeditious to do it that way, but I think just so the board will have the final say on the application, at least peremptorily just bring it before the board.
And if somebody fails, should we have to keep that on record for 3 years?
The result you'll be keeping them, won't you?
Well, because we are subject to audit for a 3-year period, I just thought that we needed to keep the records for 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
They will actually be in a locked cabinet inside the vault, which of course the vault is always locked.
Who has access to the vault?
Myself, and we're going to eliminate, there's other people that can get into the vault, but we're going to eliminate anyone else being able to get in the cabinet other than myself and Jason.
Okay, and the cabinet will not be removable, or it will be?
The cabinet is, I mean.
I know how big the vault is. I'm talking about what you're putting
Get
in.
some bronze people and move that.
Okay, just making sure. You're liable. I'm not.
That is very true, and let me tell you, for about 6 to 8 applicants a year, this is a lot of.
And then we have the instance where, I know last year, where a particular store in Great Highway, they kept reapplying with different people. And that's my concern for you, is this, you know, and it changes hands, I don't know, every 90 days or 360 or whatever it does. All right.
All right. Any more discussion or questions?
So I just asked for approval.
What's the difference in this than what we do for our employees? What's the difference in the background?
A fingerprint. We don't do fingerprint on employees.
What's the difference in the background check then? We not asked the same criminal history?
I don't think you keep a record of it. The sheriff's department has that security in line now. They run through NCIC and all. Just if you get hits, you know. So there's no downloaded record of your right. You don't get a downloaded record of somebody's criminal history, where the fingerprint will tell you what it is, and that's a viable document that you'd have to maintain.
Any more questions on that? We need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
More discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Vote, ayes have it. Number 3 on new business is a request to add Cumberland Road at State Route 49 Mill and Inlay intersection to be completed as part of the 2018 LMIG project. Mr. Redner, you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I can start off and then maybe hand it over to John for some comments. One project that John and his folks had identified a couple months ago, I guess, was right there where Cumslow comes into 49. I think there's some rutting and that type of thing. Our thought was, you know, maybe while we have the LMIG contractor here, rather than bidding that out as a separate project, you know, we could probably get more favorable pricing if we just use the LMIG contractor while they're here. And so that's what we have before you tonight, just a proposal to do that work. Is about $11,000. It's $11,579.23. It was the quote that we got from Georgia Asphalt, and they're the ones that are here or will be here to do our LMIG paving. And I believe Levita has identified money in the Public Works budget that we can use to do this work. With that, I'll turn it over to John. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, you know, like Jason said, it's pretty rough right down there before you get to 49. They're talking about, you know, milling it out and repaving. That's what it needs right there. It's about 200 feet from 49 back.
Any question for John or Jason?
Did we get comparative pricing with our bid for LMIG? I mean, are they in line with the prices for the adding it on, or?
I haven't checked. Have you checked to see if the unit prices are the same as what we got with?
I mean, I think Mr. Wendell called Alan Mason about it.
I'd have to check to see. I'm the unit, making sure the unit prices from this line up with.
I'd make a motion to approve, pending the prices are comparable, not
okay.
You know, not like you would if you had to set up for one project.
Right.
We are adding it to what's already set up for others.
We have a motion. Second. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye? Well, you want, hold on.
You know, as much as I like to save money, we have an issue because it is over the threshold. And that's my concern. I would be opposed because of that.
The 10,000 threshold, so did they bid it out or?
Right. You know, that's the legal procedure that we should follow.
Now, there is an exception in the purchasing ordinance that allows the board to waive competitive bidding for purchases over 10,000 if it's inappropriate for competitive bidding due to the nature of the item or time constraints or that type of thing. So I think the board does have the ability to do that if you see fit.
I just think that's a slippery slope.
I thought we were doing it as an addendum to an existing contract.
And you could view it that way too, I think.
And that's,
Based off the unit price is what he,
That's up to you guys. I just told you where I stand.
Sure. All right, any more discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
No.
Opposed?
4. Number 4 on the new business is tractor mower and equipment for public work. Mr. Lowe, I think this was your request.
Chairman and board, come to y'all tonight about getting 2 tractors and 2 mowers. And I went out to Flint and Southern Atlantic, or Atlantic Southern, and I was just trying to get some prices so I knew what we was going to be standing with to try to figure if we want to bid it out. But they gave me the state contract prices on it. And Flint was like 109, 104.40. And Atlantic Southern was 124, 793.70. I mean, that's a difference of $15,689.30. I mean, y'all got y'all's packages broke down what the 15-foot mower costs with the wings on it, and the 7-foot rotary mower, and then the 70 horse. Well, one of them is a 70 horse and one's a 75. The John Deere is 75 horse. Massey Ferguson is 70, and then the 90 horse for the 15-foot bat wing.
So what's your recommendation?
I like the John Deere. I mean, you're talking about saving $15,689.30.
Page 72.
And that's coming out of your splosh or your budget?
how many tractors do you have running now?
2. They pretty old, and both of them got like a 6-foot, rotary mower behind them. I'm trying to get something that's a little bit bigger where we can get around the county a little quicker.
So you're wanting these to replace those 2?
Right. I mean, we're gonna keep them 2, just in case we might need them. I might could use them in different places, like when we go up and cut it, animal control. Heck, if Matt needs some help somewhere, we might go help him, with these others.
Are you gonna have to add more people?
No, sir. No, sir.
You do it with 2 people? The same 2?
Right.
So now I do have a question, because I was thinking part of the proposal was that we could have 2 teams. Because right now we got 1 team cutting grass, and with these additional mowers, you could almost have 2 teams. Because the concern or the complaint I'm getting is, when are you going to cut my grass? When are you going to cut my grass? When are you going to cut my grass?
Well, we've had a lot of rain this year.
Right. So with it, but it would be acceptable to have 2 teams if the old mowers are working with these new mowers, that if the board approves it tonight, that we can have 2 mowers work curtain in 2 different areas.
That's one reason I wanted to spray some more roads. So because see, this year and last year, we didn't even cut too much on the north end.
Mm-hmm.
I got a slope mower that runs a lot up here on this end, on some of the roads that don't get sprayed, some of the little side roads.
Right.
But the main roads I try to spray.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm concerned much like Jonathan, it takes a long time to get over here, and, Joy Cliff just got cut just before school. Thank you. But if we had 4 mowers going, even if it was 1 per district, right? Because I like that. It allows us to make sure we got coverage.
I mean, if I'm going to have 2 more mowers running, I'm going to have to hire 2 more people.
You got 100 people down there already. Just move somebody else around. If they're not on the, the patch crew, can they cut with a mower?
Well, usually this time of the year is when we run in the pothole patching crew. Because in the wintertime, they don't run that much. They out there with the coal patch fixing potholes here and yon everywhere.
But I'm sure there's some people getting trained in the Public Works Department to operate these mowers and cut grass without having to hire 2 additional people. Because, part of the discussion I've had in the past is there wouldn't be a need to hire additional people. We have people in place that can be trained to cut grass in 2 different areas at the same time. So that wasn't correct when it was shared with me?
I got some openings down there now. I can hire some people to get on these other 2 tractors.
Because I know I've looked at it. I think there's about 5 openings in Public Works right now. So if we had to move 2 of those positions to laborers or grass cutters, then I think the money's there. But I was up on the impression that we have people in place that can be trained to cut grass with the old mowers, the new mowers. So we'll be cutting in 2 areas at the same time. So.
Because the landfill down there, the old landfill, it takes us a while when them 6-foot mowers down there cutting it. Because that's probably 30 acres.
Right. And that's fine, but I just want to make sure that the neighborhoods, are being cut, on a regular basis, because it's just surprising. Well, not surprising, but that's just the biggest call that I get is about cutting grass. I think this is something that we put in place to have 2 mowers or 2 teams cutting at the same time. I think it'll reduce the number of calls that we're getting. We'll also be working more efficiently to meet the needs of, the citizens in Jones County. So.
Well, with a 15-foot bat wing, we ought to make a lot of progress. Good time.
Where would you use that, John? I don't know anywhere you can use a 15-foot.
That's quite a few rows we could cut with it. There's going to be some areas you're not going to be able to cut on, but a lot of the areas are about 10, 12 feet wide, And
you're talking about a bat wing, aren't you?
Yes.
Again, I'm with Jonathan on this. If we're running 2 teams, I see the justification for it without question. Don't get me wrong, I see the efficiency of doubling your cut capacity so that individual theoretically is moving twice as fast, right? But they can only cut in certain areas. So if I've got the big mower and the little mower, big mower's doing the big thing, little mower's doing the little thing, team A and team B is someplace else working, that makes sense to me. And I don't have a problem saying, yes, go ahead and spend $109,000 on another mower.
Well, this is 2 mowers and 2 tractors. Well, it's 1 mower and 1 tractor. Well, it's all of them.
Oh, okay.
So that's both tractors and both mowers.
All right, so 109 for 2. Okay.
Any more questions? I was kind of like Commissioner Robinson about, and I talked with John a little bit about this when I saw it on the agenda, but the bat wing, because it is kind of specific to certain areas. It's hard to cut a roadside, a right of way with a bat wing, because you're always using your right hand side and your left hand side's always up. So you're right along with 7.5 feet of using. Now, if he's using a 6-foot mower to mow 30 acres, then obviously he's more than doubling 2.5 times the speed to cut that 30 acres. And if we've got, and this is where we got to trust John to have the knowledge of what he's cutting with. So if we've got right of ways that are 60 foot wide, 70 foot wide for a good area, but I think if more of it is the 10 or 12 foot roadside that we're cutting, for us, for my department, and my other job is an articulating arm does more for keeping the tractor on the road, cutting the 6 or 8 foot right off the right of way instead of a back wing. But and definitely we've tried to get away from bush hogs for the same reason. Your tractor has to be off the road on the slope of the embankment, and you get less cut area with that. So your needs in this county more than we do, for sure. So just want to make sure we're getting the right thing for the right application to or reduce the time it takes to mow.
I think with the 15 foot, we'll make good time with it. Because there's some areas that's going to be 12. Some of them might be 15, 20 feet wide, But there's some areas that's real narrow, especially where there's bottoms,
Any more discussion or question?
I'm going to ask you, articulating arm versus batwing.
I like both of them, so that's, you know. If I'm on the landfill, I want the bat wing. I mean, state highway, that's all they run is bat wings, and then a single. They generally run a single mower behind it, or a smaller mower behind it. So I mean, if you see all the other DOT contractors, every one of them running bat wing, and they'll have generally a smaller mower behind, or they're doing it by hand on where they can't get. So.
Just ain't cutting the right away, state right.
But
that big wide median.
Right, but that's if you're looking at the state. But you know, they both got their. You know, you can do either or. I think we got some good operators that can take either application and go with it.
Fair enough.
Mr. Robinson, you got?
Mr. Chairman, I think we need, and I've said it plenty of times in the past, we need to be looking at ways to reduce the size of public works. These 4 positions that are open have been identified as some that can be done away with.
Right.
I could support this if those 4 positions are still left open and the work done with somebody that's already in public works, but not if we're going to fill any of those positions. We need to be reducing.
Any chance of cross training anybody else? I mean, I'm not trying to pick them out. I know there's times that there's other people.
I might could stop some of my other tractors and put them on the bush hog and everything. And then in the wintertime, we'd have to get back on the other tractor and cut.
Sure.
You know,
we spoke about doing away with your road building.
Right.
That's gonna open up some additional labor that's been building the road, and I think you and I both agree that going
I'm
forward,
hoping that we're going to start running the zipper a little bit more on some of my roads on some areas.
We hadn't started the road building yet, have we?
No,
we're just going to finish what we started.
We're still up at stalling. When we get through with it, that's it.
But that's going to open up an opportunity to have some employees that normally been building roads can maybe, I mean, cross training is anything, and I mean, you know, everywhere I've ever worked at, which, you know, you go there they say, I need you to drive a truck today. Guess what I did? I drove a truck. If I need you to drive a tractor, I drove a tractor. So cross training is it. I mean, I've never known anybody that had the opportunity to come out here, and I'm not driving the red truck. I'll drive the white one. I didn't have that choice. I was, you know, so.
And all other duties as assigned.
Right.
I think that's the last sentence.
Absolutely.
Right. But you know, I think we got an opportunity to do some cross training and utilize the employees we got, you know, and we got budgets, and we've got budgets coming up too, and it's going to greatly affect this budget, what we can do going forward for the employees. If we keep hiring, we're you know, it's we got to find some money somewhere in this budget.
Well, I think I can move some people around.
All right.
Where would this money come from?
Splosh. Out of Splosh.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, you just mentioned the budget. I was going to jump in a minute ago and, you know, suggest maybe the board could consider, since it is a large purchase and there may or may not be additional people, personnel involved, you know, maybe the board just want to wait and consider it during the budget process, and you know, make a decision as we go through that budget process. If you want to allocate money for this expenditure and or for additional personnel, as we kind of work through that budget process and see how some of those things.
Would you like to do that?
I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean,
What is the delivery time?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because we might be out of the growing season.
Right.
You order it now.
Right. I'm sure we will be.
October, so it really don't need it till April.
Sure. So we can do that. That way we got time to look at the budget.
Okay.
What we're going to be
That'd be
able to do.
fine.
And I know you sold a lot of equipment too, so that's, you know, we've got rid of, I guess, with everything, that all the surplus sold all right, and then that's
Well, we still got some more stuff down there I want to get rid of.
Sure.
So, Chairman, to chime in, for an example, does it ever really come to a time where we don't cut grass in the area, even though the winter months do come? And I agree, but are you guys cutting grass pretty much year round?
Well, we cut a lot in the wintertime, like on dirt roads and stuff, which we cutting on them right now too.
Right.
With the arm mowers and slope mower. And
yeah. Because
with this weather, January and February is only much you really don't get.
Right. And I guess what I'm hearing is from, and I agree with Commissioner Robinson mentioned, as long as we can fill the positions in-house so you're not adding to public works. The funds are allocated from SPOS funds to do it. I don't see why we can't do it now.
Right. Well, I mean, looking at, well, yes, SPOS.
We want a grass cut, I'm sorry, sir.
You want the grass cut?
It's not like picking up a lawnmower load.
Right. And I mean, I said we got to order it. It's coming in. And during that time, we'll be cross-training. It's there. But like I said, it's a big concern. Then I mean, we've been waiting on this proposal for at least a month, if not 60 days. And I'd like to see us go ahead and move forward with it.
And if we can get some cross training within the county and show,
Well, hey, we got the old landfill down there. We can do a lot of cross training.
And this is your new job. If you don't like it, go someplace else. I'm sorry, I'm from corporate America. I mean, this is the job.
You know, it's just, you don't really get to tell everybody what you get to do. I mean, it's just, we're trying to do the best we can for y'all, but everybody got to work together. And if it means, you know, you're a truck driver today and a tractor driver tomorrow, well, you know, at least you don't get bored doing the same thing every day.
Right.
And so.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, I made the motion. We move forward with purchasing the tractor and the more equipment, public works using SPOS funds, and that John cross-train his current staff so that you do not add any new members of public works, and to move forward with this project.
I have a motion. Second. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Number 5, we've got approval for the FTA 5311 and the FY 2018-2019 contract, which is a project ID of 2006266 for the transit services. Marty, I think this is.
Chairman Board, this is the agreement that we have every year that comes up with the Department of Transportation for the transit operation. And it is federally funded, and the federal government pays 50% of the budget. The actual budget cost estimate from the Department of Transportation this year is $84,112. Last year, the amount was $75,483. The reason for the larger amount back is because they no longer deduct the 10% fare revenue. So when they do the calculation, it actually works in our favor. And giving you the example, the actual budget for this year is only $485 more than it was for last year. So we're getting 50% of the $168,350 this year. Last year, because of that 10% reduction in fares, we did not receive technically 50% of the total budget. So it comes out to our advantage. It looks funny.
Motion to approve before they change.
Second,
we have a motion to second. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Approval to go out for bid for concrete for the passive park at the Government Center. Matt, is this yours?
That's it. Good, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. A couple meetings ago, y'all approved for us to move forward with the passive park located right here adjacent to this building. I'm asking permission tonight to go out for bid for it's a quarter-mile walking track, 8 foot wide, roughly 130 yards of concrete. So we ask permission to go out for bid for a GC to do the project.
All right, so you're gonna go through the GC process, or?
Yes, sir. I explained to Jonathan and to Mr. Jason that with this amount of concrete, it's gonna use a dozen or more trucks, and with that and the temperature, there's so many variables, and you would understand this, that between the concrete person putting the concrete down, laying it, versus the concrete plant delivering it, any hiccups or anything that may happen. You get a he said, she said, your fault, not my fault, the concrete's too dry, the concrete's too wet, they start pointing fingers. If we go through the GC, we're able to step back and say, we're not happy, you need to fix it before we pay you. So it kind of puts the responsibility of the GC to make sure all pieces fit together versus us buy it. So we're dealing with the concrete plant, and then the laborer laying it down, he won't blame it on the concrete plant versus the concrete plant blaming it on the laborer. It takes us out of the mix. We are asking for a I don't know the proper word. What word am I looking for? Asking them to do two prices to where we can compare. I do have prices from the concrete plants on what it would cost if we purchased it, and we'll keep that private until we open the bids. But we are asking them to do two, so we can look at it and see if there is a substantial difference between us buying it versus the GC buying it and doing it. So that we'll be able to compare if it's worth it or not to take the risk of any kind of hiccups. We'll know that once we open bids, because we'll be able to look at what the GC gives as a total price versus just labor and us buying it separate. And we're keeping our price quiet until we open the bids.
So you're going to do, basically you're just asking for a foreman and finishing price and a material price.
Correct, yes, sir.
Right, which GC, I mean, it's, obviously this is something that doesn't require a general contractor's license because you have to pull permits, but you can, I mean, there's a lot of good concrete companies out there, but.
So right, the reason I use the term GC, and I probably, maybe I shouldn't have, but there's some local contractors that don't carry the proper insurance and liability and everything, which would disqualify them, and most GCs do.
But we've got contractors that currently work for us now that I've signed checks for that wouldn't, I'm just saying, I don't want to eliminate, this one is probably, if we're building a concession stand again or the animal services, obviously we need a GC to do that. But I think we're hurting ourselves by, I think we just need to get a foreman and finishing price and then solicit the local concrete companies to give us a material price, and then that have specifics. If you want 3,000 residential fiber, whatever the specifics on that, go that way.
Right, I have the prices from 3 concrete companies, File Flemister, Reeves, and Oconee. So I know what our cost is already.
Sure.
So what we're looking for to go out for bid is to find out what contractor A, whether he's a finisher or he's a GC, what they would charge us to form, finish, and purchase versus just form and finish.
Right.
Are we doing the grading ourselves? The finish grading.
It would be in the bid for them to give us both. Because I'm asking that the bid that the concrete be graded to ground level to minimize weed eating, so that the lawnmowers can transition across them smoothly. But that would minimize basically a half a mile of weed eating, because you got a quarter mile on the inside and a quarter mile on the outside.
Yeah, well, there's a huge cost savings if you grade it. If you're going to pour it 3.5 inches thick instead of grading it 4.5 inches thick. So
they have been making.
Oh, you'll lose 30% of your concrete cost if you don't have a good grader.
And that's on the that's where your flat fee will come. You know, you've already got an estimation of 130 yards, but you also just like you just put out your bid for your sidewalks on your rec complex. You know, you had basically you're asking for the same.
Right.
So we're asking for a turnkey versus labor on it.
Correct.
Sure. But then you also like you're talking about the 4.5 inches. If you're not careful, with a turnkey job, they're estimating the concrete, they're doing everything, and if they graded it 4.5 inches and then figured on 3.5 inches, it's on them.
Right.
Can everybody read a tape measure?
Yeah.
So
I just wondered if John was planning on helping do the grading for it, and then somebody else is going to just form it, pour it, and finish it. Then we're kind of, if they're going to bid X number of cubic yards.
And when they do a lump sum bid like that, they're going to figure their room of error. Lump sum. A lot of people add 25% minimum on their bids to cover that. So
do you have a different recommendation, Chairman?
Well, we got Mr. Wendell in a tape measure. He can, and I think John agreed. That's a lot of stuff he does is make sure we're where we need to be. So when forms are set,
we can inspect before we pour.
He can go check it, and if it's too deep, just can't pour. We've got somebody in place to do that. So that could be by getting a foreman and finishing price and then a material price, and having somebody going and actually checking the forms and making sure that all the grades are correct because this does not have to be one continuous pour. I mean, they go from cold joint to, they can have a cold joint because they'll have expansion joint on it. So and having somebody that we've already got in place, inspecting and measuring to make sure that we don't buy excessive amount of concrete, that we are standing at 3.5 inch. I think a little management and getting the foreman and finishing price and properly insured, workers' comp, general liability, I think we'll be fine.
So how do I write that in a proposal?
I think it's I think the motion is just to get to do a turnkey versus labor only, and then we can work on the bid packet to make sure it's worded properly.
But we'll still need to bid out the concrete because you're talking 130 yards, which is $100 a yard. So you could do
it's 10,000 plus.
Yeah. So we need to reach out to them. I mean, we've got about 6 concrete companies within 20 miles of here. Isn't that right? Reach out to them, get everybody opportunity to bid on it, because 130 yards is not a small pour. And I think you'll see who's willing to step up to the plate and go from there, and then bid out your foreman and finishing also.
What PSI?
I'm sorry?
What PSI you are?
I'd say at least 3,000 with residential fiber and you'll be fine.
Yeah, Tim Ingram was getting us the DOT sidewalk spec. We were going to use that as a basis to work from.
Sure. They're about 4,000, aren't they?
I think he said. I thought he said something under. I thought he said something under 3,000 actually.
Maybe so. I don't know.
I always run a 3,000 with residential fiber.
Yeah, 3,500 is plenty.
Right.
If we're not going to drive vehicles on it, I don't think we are.
You can get with Tim on the recommendations. If it's under 3, I'd recommend 3. That's just a good. It's always worked for me. And after 30 years, I hadn't had one. I mean, concrete's gonna crack. It's not.
It's gonna get hard and gonna crack.
So we're basically motion would be to bid out the foreman and finishing part of the pour, and on a separate bid would be a per yard price on concrete per spec.
Per yard.
And then and also we're incorporating a turnkey price for all. And we can sit down and do the footage and figure the yardage and see where we're going to come out the best at it. And
okay, so Ms. Tyson,
measurements, we can come up with some pretty decent numbers.
So I'm gonna give it a shot and get the chairman to correct me where I go wrong. But so I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we bid to form and finish. We're going to also get a bid when it comes to per yard and of concrete, and we're going to incorporate a turnkey price for all. So
have it bid the 2 different ways.
Okay.
Everybody understand the motion? I didn't confuse you too bad, did I? Second. Any more discussion? Mr. Martin?
For this reason only, we're getting K9s before kids. I've been asking for basketball courts on 49 for over a year, so, it's hard for me to support these other items out of the scope of serving that population that is deserving. We have more kids in courts here in the county, and for that, I'd be opposed.
All right, any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. 4-1. Thank you, Matt. We don't have any old business. Department heads. John, you got anything tonight?
The only thing I got is about the L meeting. Georgia Asphalt said it was going to be September because they're down on 475 trying to. I reckon the rain's been killing them, so they behind. So it's going to be 1st of September.
Yep, we had 18 days of rain in last month. That's unheard of. And
yes, sir. This Saturday we have our big event. Mother Nature's going to leave us alone. We have the bands in the Sandy Bend at Highway 18. Looking forward, y'all please come out. Starts at 5. We'll be over about 10. A lot of activities for the youth, for the kids. Ended with a concert. The chairman and our mayor will be in a dunking booth, so you have a chance to dunk them in a dunking booth.
Is there a limit?
Done it many times until he starts coughing up water, I guess.
Will they be in there? Will they be in there at the same time?
Sir?
Will they be in there at the same time?
I don't know if it's quiet that long. But we are gonna slip some lights in there while he's in there to make sure the water's getting cold. But also we have soccer and football signups going on right now. So you know, encourage your friends and families and congregation to come sign up for football and soccer.
All right. Mr. Resner?
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I've got several things here. I'm going to do kind of rapid fire.
Sure.
With y'all, and just stop me if y'all have questions on any of these. We received a letter a month or so ago from a gentleman inquiring about the county becoming designated as a Purple Heart County. And the Purple Heart organization does this in various places, and basically what it consists of is the board adopting a resolution naming Jones County as a Purple Heart County, and that organization will provide some signage to put up along the routes leading into town. I passed that information along to Frank Duke and our veterans organization, and Mr. Duke asked if the board would be interested in pursuing that, and he'll certainly work with the veterans group, assuming the board is interested in pursuing that, and we'll come back before you at another time with a resolution for you to consider adopting. Is that something that y'all would be interested in?
I am.
Absolutely, for me.
All right. We'll continue working on that. We've got a budget meeting scheduled for Thursday at 4 o'clock. That'll be the first of our budget meetings, and then we'll certainly schedule plenty more from then. Probably, well, never mind. Disregard that one. Let's just strike that one. We had a good meeting last week with Schneider Electric. We've started the process with them. They came and met with us and spent a couple days going around to various county facilities looking at documenting all the light fixtures, all our heating and air units, and a number of other things at all our county facilities. So just wanted to let you know we got that process started. Speaking of HVAC, I wanted to see if I could get some guidance from the board. We've got a large unit right outside this building that's 43 years old, and it's a 16-ton unit, I think. 20-ton unit, and it's
it is older than me.
And in talking with Bobby Bonner and our building maintenance staff, it's on its last legs. They've done several things to it in recent weeks, and talking to them just before I came in here, they had some doubts whether it'll even make it through the night. But and it could be just fine. There's some parts of it that are causing a lot of vibration, and all that gets way over my head. But I think we're going to need to replace that in pretty short order. That is something that Bobby had submitted as part of his budget request for next year. I don't know that we'll have. It may not last us 3 more weeks. And so just kind of wanted to get some guidance from the board. We could certainly go ahead and put it out for bid. Bobby seems to think it's somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000, I think, to replace it. We could certainly go ahead and put it out for bid. Advertise in the paper next week and that kind of thing, and just hope that it hangs on. And if something does happen in the meantime, just be an emergency type thing that we'd have to address as it happens. But just wanted to get some direction from y'all on how you wanted to handle that. If you wanted to put it out for bid, or if we should look at something else there.
It's going to be a commercial contractor because of tonnage. You won't find a whole lot of locals here that can license to go up to 20 tons. There's a few, but you're going to be getting into the commercial range when you put it up for bid because of the tonnage.
Is it gas or electric? Just out of curiosity.
It's multi-fuel, isn't it?
I guess it would be electric.
Gas.
I don't know.
I think it's natural gas.
I don't know.
No, the building's natural. I think it's natural gas. I'm sorry?
Roof mount? Or is it ground mount?
It's,
I think it's
Out
ground.
back?
right. That's one you keep hearing thumping every time. It ain't thumped today, so it might not be working.
One thing we gotta think about too, Chairman, is a unit that big, they don't have down here on the lot at Granger or Carrier, Mangledorf. They, you have to get them. So if it goes out, you're at the mercy of doing it under emergency situation, which prices are gonna be higher. And you can't speed up the trucks to get it here. So it's down until it gets done. 43 years, I've done a lot of project management. 43 years is, by anybody's standard, is a good time for an air conditioning unit. That's older than some of our commissioners.
That's one of them for sure. I just happened to look online and found one at Ingram's, not Tim Ingram's shop, of course, and it was 15 grand and, ships within 1 to 2 days.
Right.
Just in case you have to.
You'll have to reach out to like the trains and the Johnson Controls and the commercial voice that not real like some of these residential don't do dual work, but I mean that's going you're going to go through and pick out and literally call them, because a lot of these aren't going to be reading Jones County. Not nothing against the Jones County News, but we need to make sure they're contacting and say this is our needs and make sure that they're included, so we get into bids we need.
So we're going to try to go out for bid, and if it goes out, then we're just going to purchase something on an emergency basis. That's what.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we're going through the process of trying to bid it out.
Sure. We
gave people plenty of opportunities to bid on it, but if it comes out to an emergency, then we just have to make a decision. So, so that's what I would at least. That's my suggestion. Jeff.
Sure. All right. We need a motion of that to allow them to go out for bid.
Okay. Make the motion, we go out for bid, and if it goes down, then we make an emergency decision to purchase an air conditioner.
We got a second, Daylon? Second. Any more discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
Got a few more.
Okay, go for it. You're doing good tonight.
Thank you. You may recall we got an award sometime back from ACCG for the GCAPS program and Georgia Civic Awareness Program for students, and we had a good kickoff meeting, and entirely on me, I haven't followed up like I should. But earlier this week, yesterday, had an opportunity with Joy Carr and some others to participate in a training on a program called iCivics, and it was actually started by the state bar, or at least in Georgia, it's sponsored by the state bar. It's completely free. There's a lot of good lesson plans and that kind of thing that teachers can use, and that we could use for the GCAPS program. And so we're going to try to set up a meeting for later this week to sort of revive that GCAPS effort and working with the high school to try to get some applicants for the program this year to get that rolling. So also wanted to let you know, I've mentioned previously, we're working on funding options for the jail expansion. We've got an RFP that's going to go out through the ACCG process for funding on the jail expansion. That information will come back to you in the next couple of weeks, so that you'll have it to consider during the budget process. That's something that we don't have SPLOST funds allocated for right now. I think there is a very real need there for additional space in the female cell block.
You heard it. It's working. It's working. It's working.
I heard me talking about it.
And so when those come back, we'll have real numbers that you can consider for interest rates and repayment terms and that kind of thing.
In this expansion, and I know years ago we talked about this, adding the space where they could actually do the court part. Is that included?
It's not. So.
Because the transportation costs to go from the jail to grade just seems silly, and something that we could incorporate into that space. I mean, it's not tremendous space, but the savings would pass on forever. You know, and I would still ask that we look at that. I know you guys have been in the process, because we're at this point. I did ask for that years ago. You weren't here.
Okay. And I think we do have a quote on that. I didn't mean to cut you off. Let me check and see what it was. I think the sheriff had some work done to develop a cost estimate, not a quote, for redoing the court. They've got a small courtroom now in the jail, and this would be enlarging that and making it, I guess, more usable for initial hearings and that kind of initial appearances, I guess, and that kind of thing. We're about $2.5 million right now with just the female cell block addition.
Do you remember what the costs were to transport annually?
I do not.
I think I can't remember if it was 30, 40, 50 or a big number, but it was big enough to pay attention to. And it's something that we pay forever. I mean, we've been paying for it all along. But it also eliminates the security risk of us. Not that we've ever lost a prisoner, thank God. But it eliminates that risk, and it also eliminates what many of our constituents are concerned about. You're sitting outside waiting for court, and here comes a parade. If you've never been in court, you know, and you could be there for a traffic ticket. Well, not traffic, the traffic is downstairs, but for an eviction, and you have that particular group that may get paraded in front of you. Again, cost savings. I'm not saying I advocate a $500,000 court, but at the cost of $500,000, I mean, you know, we're talking about paying a couple $20,000 a year service in debt or some number like that. If we're paying more than that in transportation costs, it should be factored in. So we stop transporting.
All right.
Thank you.
And then the last two things I was going to mention real quick. We've issued the notice to proceed to the contractor on our transportation enhancement project. So that should get going shortly. We've got a couple paperwork loose ends we're tying up with GDOT on that. And then the last thing I was going to mention, library construction is going well. We're a little bit behind on some of the outside work there, but they've made up for that on the interior. And so we've got some sheetrock and things like that going on inside that, and hopefully in the next week or so they'll be able to start pouring on the outside for the addition. So it's looking. It's interesting to walk in and see the thing open, and I think it's going to turn out really nice. So that's all I have, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
thank you very much. Start tonight, Commissioner Robinson. You'd like to start us off on commissioner comments tonight?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Martin.
Just wanted to say best wishes to all the kids and the teachers out there that have started the school year. I hope it's fantastic, awesome, rewarding, and learning as we move forward as a county, and with opportunities much like involving kids in our governmental process through ACCG or even in our own programs. I think we definitely need to incorporate them. We have a lot of challenges filling board positions because our people aren't prepared, they don't know, they're unaware. And if we engage youth earlier, we can avoid some of the challenges we have, expose them early enough, and then we might even find a good talent pool that we can hire almost direct from the College and Career Academy. Vendor and contractors, again, I think it behooves us to make sure that we're connecting with the chamber to get our locals engaged in the process. Even this 20-ton is a package unit. I can install a package unit. It's push it up, it's connected. No, I don't have the license to do so, but I know how to do it. But we shouldn't negate someone from doing that, just like pouring the concrete. We ought to figure out a way to have them partner with us so we can get it done and save us dollars. We spend millions of dollars a year all over the county, and I think we should do a better job of making sure it stays in county. With that being said, hope you all have an excellent football year and soccer year. It's all about the kids, and I hope we do get basketball courts, guys. It's not hard. It's just a few dollars. It's kind of like pouring a pad for dogs. So that being said, thank you.
Commissioner Pitt?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. On an economic development standpoint, I reached out to Greg Borkey at the Regional Commission and asked him to identify some programs that we could possibly take advantage of here in Jones County. And I had Ms. Tyson make copies for the board, and he identified two programs. There's a state opportunity zone program that pretty much gives a tax credit for jobs that are created. It's very competitive right now, but history shows that if we can get an opportunity zone in certain areas of Jones County, it can be very beneficial. One prime example of it is the property that's pretty much across the street, Crossway Business Park. It fell up under opportunity zone. There are incentives for that, and now it's an open business, and things are going very well for the owner of that business. So that's something I want us to look at, where there are opportunity zones throughout Jones County we can apply for. The other one was a revitalization area strategy program. It's another incentive program to encourage target investments in community redevelopment. He identified two areas, one in North Jones County as well as South Jones County. North Jones County, because of its density of infrastructure, public water, sewer especially, the program wouldn't be worthwhile. But in South Jones County, there's some possibilities. In the Sun Valley area, he also mentioned eligible block group in roughly boundaries of Highway 129, or Willow Road, Chapman Road, Henderson Road, as well as where Macon, Bibb, and Jones County, the border comes together. So that's an area that I would like to see us move forward with, trying to get this designation for both of those programs where they will be, I guess, where they would work in Jones County. So if I can get the consensus of the board, I would just ask Jason to work with Greg, start the study, the research, come back to us, and hope we can get these designations to try to help revitalize certain areas and also give businesses an incentive, for coming to Jones County, because I think, as we all know, in economic development, whatever we can do to make ourselves that much more attractive than another community, it gives us some additional points. Another benefit of the revitalization area strategy program is it will give us 20 additional points on our community development block grants going forward. So that's only going to help us out in the long run. So like I said, if I can get the consensus of the board, we ask Jason to reach out with Greg Borkey, and this is be something we'll be able to work on in South Jones County to help that area.
I would add that they did the study, some time ago, and it was, I think, urban revitalization or something like that.
Right.
But the language that actually came made it look like an impoverished zone, and many people were upset about it in the language. And then there was a bunch of miscommunication about what it did and eligibility, and it got really muddied with Section 8 and a few other things. That study has been done. They identified a bunch of the properties, the neighborhoods. So if it's a new name, great, let's do it. If it's the old name, the research has already been done, and I would love that to be on the agenda for the next term, and make sure, next meeting, but also make sure we include 57 and the industrial area.
Right, especially as they identified the areas anywhere that was already identified,
yeah. And
they also review the areas that had already been approved for that urban redevelopment plan. Mm-hmm. That's all I have. Well, and then one more thing, Mr. Chairman, Matt gave me some good news, and it's really some great news. It came from Georgia Thomas. She's the accounting manager with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and it mentions that I met with the underwriter, and due to an oversight, we'll be extending a wellness fund to Jones County Board of Commissioners of $10,000. So Matt and the wellness committee, they're going to get together with other department heads to look at other ways to help out our wellness program. I think as the commissioners, they know wellness is a way to try to save money. Health insurance is going up every year, so whatever dollars we can invest in wellness, I think it's going to be a great savings for the county as well as we look at budgets. So great job, Matt, Jason, and thank Blue Cross Blue Shield and Shaw Hankins.
Thank you.
Chairman, we need to, if you ride the roads in, you notice that our cleanup day was great, just didn't last too long. So we probably need to put our heads together about more cleanup days, doing them more often than once a year. Maybe even expand out to where we can have people, homeowners or neighborhoods, adopt an area where they can pick up and just leave the bags on the side of the road, and we pick a day where we go around and pick them all up. Our roads are looking terrible, and it's, we can say it's from not securing the loads, but I mean, we just got people that just don't care about our community like others do, and that's a shame. It's sad, and it's just disheartening. So, and if you have social media or if you have a dirt road in your district, you'll notice that there's a lot more tires being dumped out. Part of that is they're closing down a lot of recycling facilities. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the only one close to us now is Jackson. Is that where we're taking? I know the landfill in Macon is now down, I think, 4 tires per person that you can carry, which puts a burden on businesses, even the people that are going to dump them out anyway. You know, I'd like to see us come up with a tire amnesty days where, just like with the community cleanup, we could put a dumpster at the Civic Center on a given Saturday, and people can just come put their tires in it. It gets full, and I mean, there's going to be a cost to it. We know that, but you know, do we want to have the cost in one location and we haul it off, or do we want to go around and pick them up one by one, or as there's a couple of, I think, off of Cheehaw Siler Road, there was 30 or 40 tires at one place in front of a cattle gate. There's some more on the other side of the county, and it's just, yeah,
It did. Wow.
it's but it's a shame, and that's something that, you know, I think we can do better at. So I'd like to see us really embrace some tire amnesty days and some more community cleanups and get everybody involved.
Yeah, and you're correct about Bibb County on the limit. I had to big them. We ran a cleanup on all my properties for one solid week, and I think I generated about 30-something tires. She said, "You can't bring before." I said, "But all these came off the roadways around our properties," and she took them, but at $12 a piece. That got a little costly at getting rid of tires that weren't even mine, but they were unsightly around the properties, and didn't look well. And I can go back and probably pick up 10 more this week. So that's what's so bad about it. It's just an ongoing thing. I agree. Since one of our constituents gave me something in Valdosta that they had a tire collection day, which, and I want to say that they had a grant that they were able to use to dispose of the tires. So it might be something we want.
America Beautiful grant money, right, or something.
And
something like that.
Like I said, it was very nice of him he was visiting his daughter, and he gave me an opportunity. He gave me a newspaper clipping of where I think it was Valdosta or somewhere had a day of bring your tires for free, and it was some sort of grant deal that they had found with a lot of. They had a real good, and it was, they didn't limit the tires to any size or anything. That's was they took them all. But I mean, you couldn't be a business and bring your tires, but if you brought them off the roadside or something to help clean up the community, it was, bring them to us. I think it's great, something to check into, but if not, yes, we need to do something in the county. We took tires at your first cleanup, and Jerry, I don't know how many trips you went with tires, but we had
a few of them.
Quite a few, but I think it's great.
The only other thing I'd like to say, Chairman, is I know it's probably not politically correct, but I think we need to start addressing what our fines are for littering. I think, as with every other county, and I don't know how to address it, whether it's with the sheriff or whether it's through an ordinance, but I know it's not worth the sheriff's time now to write a ticket and process it through courts for a $50 fine or a $100 fine or whatever it is. With everything else, I think we need to start upping those fines, make them steep enough so those that don't care will learn to care. Mm-hmm. It's uncalled for, and if you can't not litter, then maybe you need to pay for the services that'll pick up your trash.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
We'll move on. Citizen comments. Anybody like to come forward tonight and speak?
Good evening, gentlemen. John Wood, off Green Road.
Good evening.
I was listening to the discussion between Public Works talking about having some vacancies and that sort of thing. I have a question, like when you're doing your dirt roads, you got a $300,000 or whatever these nice motor graders cost. They get the roads pretty good, and then here's a wore out farm tractor coming behind the motor grader with a spring rake with a bunch of motor grader blades strapped to it for weight, and it's just a bouncing, making the road ripples again. That's a tractor that could be repurposed to cut some grass somewhere, put a mower behind it, instead of, if a $300,000 motor grader can't fix the road or straighten it up or keep it smooth, what's the $20,000 wore out farm tractor gonna do? I'm not knocking on John, but I'm just saying it's a policy of the, I think, last board that started that, and it's just, I've had a lot of people question me on it. I'm like, hey.
What does the tractor do, John? Does the motor grader not do it?
Well, that kind of helps out dragging the dirt down and it brings the rock back up.
Yeah, I've seen the guy on the tractor. It's in the wintertime, he's got a nice little cute vinyl cab on there to keep him warm. In the summertime, he's sweating his butt off. I've seen him take a full load of gravel rock, just run it out through somebody's grass in their front yard before. So it's like rock. It's wadded up in there. It's got some grass.
Probably got pine straw and everything else, and that's where you got rock in it.
Right. I'm just thinking, you see highways built. I've worked alongside decab pipeline on jobs before. They didn't use one. They used a roller behind it, mashed everything in the road, mashed it flat. The roller would keep it smooth. I don't know. It's just something y'all think about. But
thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else before I call on Mr. Pitts? There's one thing on do we want to mention about the board appointments? There was some questions as far as we got a vacancy. We've got one application on it, but I think there was an issue that the young lady's on multiple boards.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, the motion we adjourn and go into executive session.
Is that what we need? No, we don't have.
We need this on here.
No, we don't have executive session.
Okay, so we're just gonna make a decision.
No, I'm just writing what I'm asking. I just bring it to your attention. We've got something we need to think about. It's below the current board openings.
Okay.
Something we need to be thinking about. We've got an opening in the Historic Preservation Commission board appointments, but the young lady's also on another board, and our current and I think we might have done it. Don't know for a fact, but did we not appoint her on planning and zoning last year on our first meeting?
Let's see, her term for the Planning and Zoning Board ends 2020, and that is a 5-year appointment.
Okay.
Then we didn't.
We just need to. No, we didn't do it.
You did not do that.
But as our rules are, you can't serve on only one board, and she's currently, I think, countywide on zoning, but her desire was to stay on the historic preservation. I guess what I'm getting at, if going forward, is Ms. Martin, you need to advertise for the zoning countywide, or is that? I mean, it was a question on the emails, and while we're all here together.
I think my response was yes. Follow the rule.
Sure. But here's my concern with that is the situation we have right now until this board position comes open and she's not on that board. She's currently serving 2 boards. I was under the impression that until the terms run out, or are we gonna, if she's the only applicant we have for the preservation board, wants to stay on that board, is she automatically removed from the zoning board, or at the end of that term she's not eligible to reapply for that board because she's on?
I thought it was whenever a person finished the term, they could only be on one. I don't know if she's been reappointed to one.
I think the board member made a mistake and appointed her to, I guess, the planning and zoning board, not knowing that you can only serve on one board at a time. And now that it's been brought to our attention, then the board needs to make a decision that, look, you can agree to stay on the planning and zoning board, the historic preservation board, but we may have to put it open for anybody else that wants to serve in planning and zoning, because we've been brought to our attention there's something that needs to be fixed. And I think it's our duty to fix that now that we know that we need to make that decision.
And that's what I'm bringing to you. I think we need to fix what, we've got a problem here that's been, ongoing, and we need to take an opportunity to fix it.
The question is, do we remove her from a board that she's on existing? We've only got one applicant for the preservation board.
It's her, right? It's her. That's fine. And I think she wants that board, so let her take that slot and then advertise to countywide. I think countywide is easier to fill than preservation.
Right. And I've got several people I've talked to, encourage them to get active in our community, possibly serving on the board, consider serving. So I've had several people, and I think I've talked to somebody in every district that have you ever considered serving the board? And I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you the amount of folks that they never even thought about it or didn't even know about it. But yes, you know, I'm retired now, or I've got the time, and yeah, I would like to have an opportunity to help this community and serve on the board. So I think, you know, trying to promote that forward. I mean, it's just getting the knowledge out there, you know, the information out there that you do have an opportunity to serve.
Right. And Ms. Sunset, I think, was one of those that we had talked about. She did not go after the other position because this was one of those that was coming up. So, you know, again, I think Erlene has done a wonderful job serving all over the county. And if she really, her heart is in historic, let her do historic, and then let's advertise the other.
Sure. Ms. Robinson, you want to say something?
I want to tell you, before we adjourn, Jason had something else.
Okay. Ma'am? Jason, you had one more thing?
Yes, sir. I didn't mention earlier, and I think Charles Cook might have sent an email to all the board members. We've and I don't want to jinx anything by saying something about this, but we've had a good run of days working safely without a workers' comp accident. I think we're up over 200 days, and so. Charles wanted some ideas. If the board was interested in maybe doing something to recognize employees for that accomplishment, and not only that, but just over time, over the last 6 or 8 years, you know, we've been able to substantially reduce our workers' comp claims, which has resulted in lower mod rates for our insurance and resulted in very substantial savings for the county. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but over the course of that time, and y'all may remember from those emails, but I think it was over $500,000 that we've saved over the course of those 6 or 8 years, compared to what we would have paid if we had stayed at the same mod rate. And so I think our safety efforts have really paid off, and particularly here in recent months, our employees have done a great job of working safely. And so, one idea I think that was mentioned is maybe the Friday before Labor Day, which I believe will be August 31st, maybe doing a luncheon for the employees. And to thank them for their safe work, and then just dismiss everybody for the day after the luncheon. So while we're all gathered here, just wanted to get y'all's thoughts on that, and
so I'm fine with it, Chairman.
I could.
I think it's fantastic. I remember we did raises one year and it cost us $186,000. So if we saved $500,000, I'd love that to be reflected in passing that back to the employees, whether that's a 2% or 4% merit. Why not? They saved it. They saved us. Pay them. Give it to them.
Amen.
Except department heads.
You beat me to it. I said, he didn't say department head.
I said employees. So hey, I mean, come on, guys.
Is that it?
Yes, sir. If the board's good with that, we'll go ahead and proceed with the planning efforts for that.
Commissioner Pitts, we missed your 721 that you had predicted.
Mr. Chairman, I got one more thing since he brought it up. Dave,
Sure.
think about it. We would like to have the employee appreciation luncheon on November 9th. That's a Friday leading into, we're off that Monday for Veterans Holiday, which is the 12th. And so we always try to do it in conjunction with some type of a holiday. So we'll have, if it's okay with you, have employee appreciation luncheon that night, which we feed them, and they all are dismissed about 1 o'clock. And then they would have a long weekend and be off that Monday.
You know me, I'd back it up. I'd do it on Thursday and let them have Friday too. I mean, they work really hard. I'm just saying,
Right. All right. Is that it?
Yeah, I'm just getting your consistency on that, or letting you know that's what we're going to do.
All right. Commissioner Pitts, we need your help tonight.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, made the motion, we adjourn.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank y'all. Thank everybody for coming.
Did y'all know that Gray Dental is now in our dental plan and with no copay?
Really?
Heck yeah. Good job.